Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find the way.
Hey, I am Christoph Jenkins of the Poet Life Podcast, and I am extremely excited to speak with this gentleman here. His name is Blues. As you can tell, his IG is Blues. And when I tell you, wait until this conversation. We're going to get into who he is, what he's done, what he's doing, and you're just going to be inspired because just from our conversation before clicking record, I'm inspired already. And I had to say, just hold that thought because I want to get all of that on the podcast. So just Blues, man, how are you, sir?
Man, I am fantastic, bro. Another day above ground. But I mean, I think being on this show, period, is, I always talk about remaining relevant or just remaining on the radar, especially when you get older in this business.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And, for everybody listening, watching, this is our first time meeting. However, I've been following this gentleman for a while and just soaking in all of the knowledge and information that he shares and the example that he presents online for me, because again, I've never met him in person, but I said let me message him and see if he would be interested in being a guest on the podcast. And I'm so excited that he said yes, and because he's not only a king in his own right, but he's well connected in the poetry industry. The names that you know and admire, he's friends with, and so let's get started, man. I asked you a question just to find out what our direction would be, right, in our conversation, and that question was, if you could teach a poetry business course or class from your perspective, your experiences, what angle would you take? What subject would that be? What would the students be learning?
Yeah, and I was breaking it down. I was like, because there's so many angles from my own experiences that I could approach it with. One of them was, of course, the voiceover work, which is always probably the most fun because you don't necessarily have to write anything. You just show up and say the thing, right? No huss, no fuss. But I think the most fulfilling part of it, the most fulfilling angle I think I would take is the publishing, the writing part, the commissioned work part, because it works so deep into a poetry business aspect. Because you're called upon to use your words to write something, and maybe not necessarily say it, but you're creating the content, you're creating the copy, you're creating the manifest, you're creating the thing that is going to be the brand of whatever it is, that you're presenting. So for me, a lot of that work has looked like NFL and NBA work, particularly the Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets. So being able to work inside that industry, it's been fun, and it's challenging because where we can be, because we can be poets all day long and get real wordy and real deep and all that, and then they'll be like, nah, we gotta cut to the chase, you know what I'm saying, tone all that down, and then you're like, all right, but it's challenging because now you have to craft this thing in a particular way and sort of take off your poet hat and put on a different kind of real inspirational kind of hat. But even inside of that, you're now thinking, all right, what do I charge for this? Do I own it after I write it? Those are the questions that you have to ask yourself. And then you say, all right, if I wrote something for, I don't know, Lowe's, and Lowe's said we need something specific for our company retreat. It's going to be over 500, 600 people. We'd love for you to be there and recite it. So One, you charge for the writing, and then you charge for the performance. And then you say, do I ever want to use these words in this, context again? Or can I say, hey, Lowe's, you can own this for another price? So it's like, boom, boom, boom. And you start breaking it down that way. So yeah, man, that's the angle I would approach, because it can get very complicated, but very lucrative. And, if you're good at what you do, you get called back.
Wow. You said a whole lot. You said we might have to just be right there because NBA, you were name dropping, sir. NBA, the Charlotte Bobcats, Hornets, or whoever, Lowe's. Okay, so I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it. Okay, so how did we get there?
And that is the $1 million question.
Yes.
Right? How do you even get to a point where you're on those folks' radar? So, and it's unique for everyone, right? It's a unique journey for everyone. So for me in particular, it started probably with NASCAR. That was like my first major sports
Come
thing.
on, Blues. Jesus Christ.
That was the first major thing that I did. And in this town, it's big enough and small enough. So
what town?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
North Carolina.
In particular the video world, say that whole, directors, producers, yada yada. Started, doing stuff with NASCAR, and my name made around the circles to Raycom Sports, who at the time was handling the ACC and SEC. So I got to do voiceover work and writing for them, which led to NFL stuff, which led to NBA stuff, which led.
Well, how did you get to NASCAR?
NASCAR, and bro, and I would love for this to be like some grand formula that I could give people, but really, I liked NASCAR, so I used to go to the races. Okay. And I did this interview with a local paper here called Creative Loafing, and it's no longer in print these days, but it was in print at the time. Right. I am, y'all. It was in print at the time, and I did this little blurb, and it was probably about like this big, right? Just this big, and it said, "Here's Blues. He's a poet. Here's his hobbies." I was like, "I play soccer. I love NASCAR, and hip hop is my thing." And one of the producers, who is a Black dude who worked at NASCAR, was like, "I want to take a chance on this." Called me up and was like, "Hey, would you like to collab and create on doing a couple openings and talking about the NASCAR Cup and the Cup Series coming up?" And I was like, "Sure." I'm like, "All right, this ought to be cool." Because at the end of the day, it was like NASCAR and a Black dude who does poetry. This could either go really right or really wrong. Right. And it went well. It went so well that we did it for 2 years.
Did what?
So I would do the opening for each race. I would talk about I would give a recap of last week's race and the next week coming up in poetic form. And we would turn that over every single week. Because all the races happened on a Sunday. So a race would happen Sunday, we'd get notes on Monday, we'd shoot Tuesday to have it ready to go in the can by Wednesday, just to do it all over again. So it was quick.
You translated the notes into poetic form.
Right.
Nice.
Right. So there was the challenge in that. It was the challenge of, how do I take this and turn it into something artistic, but yet still have enough form and context that it makes sense to someone, as if I was just giving a sports report or anything like that. So there was the beauty and the challenge of that. And then we'd go shoot at a place. So it wasn't just that I was sitting there writing it. Then I had to kind of memorize this 1 to 2 minute thing in my brain, and then go to a place, and then we shoot the whole thing. And then
2 days, 3 days to memorize?
Yeah, maybe a day and a half. Because we'd get notes, and they'd be like, "Oh, here are the notes." And then sometimes it'd change. So I'd write a thing and they'd be like, "We can't use that. Can you do this over again?" And for those who are like, "Man, that sounds like a lot of work," they paid well. So yeah, I didn't mind it. I was like, "Oh, I can do this."
Good motivation.
Yeah, good motivation. But part of that too was I became, I got a title. I got like a producer title on some of them because I was able to write. And when we talk about, I don't know, folks be like, how'd you get your Emmy? These are the shows that I got to win the Emmy for, and some stuff that I did for.
Wait, what? How did you get your what? You have an Emmy?
Yeah. So I won an Emmy working with inside the headsets for NASCAR, and then an Emmy with Raycom Sports. We did the Duke Carolina Open. I think it was the Making of a Blueprint was the title of that one that we won an Emmy for that one as well. So long story short, to answer your question, it was serendipitous. Like I really I loved something that was so different, and being an oddball kind of gave me my in. So if you are an oddball person who likes really strange things or not the normal, Black people are not a monolith. So if you're a poet who's into skateboarding, surfing, parasailing, all the things they say Black folks don't do, but you do that, and you can write about it, get creative.
It's time to create an unforgettable experience at your next event with The Poet Life by booking a keynote poet. Poets excite your audience with motivating messages, charismatic delivery, colorful rhythm, powerful prose, and heart-filled stories with a style of spoken word that's tailored specifically to your event. The Poet Life has keynote poets in your city of all ages and backgrounds.
Visit thepoetlife.com to learn more and book your poet today.
The thing that you love the most, that you spend money on, spend money doing, and write something beautiful about it, and then see what pops up, see who sees it, see who's going to be like, oh, you're pretty good. Do you mind collabing and working together on some stuff? So it's just like that. It's just taking a chance and just stepping out on some weird, I'm a weirdo kind of faith, it's those kind of things.
Yeah. Weirdos stand out.
Exactly.
Yeah. That weird means unique.
Yes.
And as you get older, you find out that unique is valuable.
Right. Especially when they try to, at an early age, they want you to fit into everything, and then you fall into these peer pressure kind of things, and you never feel right? You never feel like yourself. And then, like you said, as we get to be adults, you're like, you know what? I like this, and I don't care.
Right.
I don't care what anybody else thinks.
When I was a kid, I didn't like my name. I didn't like my name, Christoph.
Right.
I was like, why couldn't you name me Chris or Christopher? Like everybody else.
Well, listen, my government name is Boris.
Right.
So I was like, for the longest, just call me B.
Right. Yeah. And your name on paper, you would not know what nationality you are.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So there's no pre-prejudice on your resume or whatever, your portfolio,
Exactly.
Yeah, because we know that's real.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Man, that is, I know everybody's watching my facial expressions because I knew none of this. More recently, I saw it was the Charlotte Panthers or the Bobcats?
Probably the Hornets. Yeah.
The Hornets.
Yeah.
The Hornets. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's doing exactly what I'm sharing, just taking it and running with it and doing something more, doing something different. But I did not know all of what I'm uncovering, and I'm sure it's so much more. But I'm excited to learn, how creative you're going with this, or when did you start? Like, when did you start writing? When did you get in the poetry industry?
I guess that's a tiered question. Well, it's not a tiered question; it's tiered answers.
Yeah.
High school, definitely.
Okay.
Probably like my 11th grade year. I really kind of got into poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just more of a hobby. So back in the day, that's what old people say. Back in the day, a group of us used to sit in class and write these battle rhymes to each other. We'd write them down and then pass the note like around, like we thought we were doing the most. It was a quiet cipher. We were such nerds. It was so fun. But then I got into what creative writing could be and really creative poetry could be after getting an assignment from my teacher who wanted us to take a Shakespeare play and sort of transpose it to the modern time. And I'm going to date myself. This was around 93, 94. So I took Romeo and Juliet and I made it hip hoppy. You know what I'm saying? I made it, it was about this girl from the east side and this dude from the west side. It was cool. I thought it was very, imaginative. It was fun, yada, yada. Ended up getting like a C or something on it. And I was just appalled. Like, how could you give this a C? It's genius. What are you talking about? But it was an introduction into what the possibilities of poetry could be for me. Mm-hmm. So that was a real eye opener. And then, of course, I didn't really get into the emotional side of it until a bad breakup, like probably my sophomore year of college. I was doing a long distance relationship thing, didn't work out. I fell into a deep, dark hole. It was just all this emo, dark, I want to kill myself kind of poetry. And not to make light of it, but I was in such a hurt place. And, as Black men, we're not really taught to deal with emotions, especially back then. You were just sad. You was just sad, and that was it. Nobody really questioned you about it or asked you how to, how they could help. So writing was my tool, was my therapy, and it was all pretty dark. And I shared some of it at an open mic, and someone said, "That's good, super sad and dark, but that's good." So I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I discovered what erotic poetry was, and the instant gratification from the oohs and ahs. Right. So I was like, I'm going to do this forever.
Right.
I'm going to write this every day, all day, because this is where it's at. And then one day, I went to the University of North Carolina in Charlotte. Jessica Care Moore comes to our school. And that woman changed my life. When I heard her, and I was like, I've been doing it wrong. This is wrong. What I'm doing is not right. What I'm doing is not what she's doing. And she's inspiring people. She's moving people to their feet, to action, to just self-respect. So all these things that weren't oohs and ahs. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And the very next day, I wrote the first poem that would be, sort of tantamount to what led me to where I am today. So it was in those stages that I got to do what I'm doing. And then, if we fast forward all the way to I graduate college, I have a really cool job working for Bay Heckle Communications, which is a Fox affiliate. And I'm having fun. I'm working on a morning show. It's the morning. It's creative. You got to keep people up. So it's, and then some things happen between a camera guy and some production people on the night side of this. And I was the new guy in. So they were like, we got to switch you tonight. And I was like, oh my God. So I started working the night side, and it was just straight up news, weather, sports, news, weather, sports. And I was like, this is terrible.
Right.
And then my wife was like, well, it doesn't work with our schedule. So we're struggling with that. Why don't you try the poetry thing full time? And I was like, you sure? And she was like, all right, let's do it. And so I stepped out on that. And the first 3 or 4 months was a real terrifying struggle because nothing was happening. Right. And I was grinding. I was trying to get into the college circuit. I was trying to do this, trying to do that. Some things were working here, some things were falling apart. And I was clueless as to what it meant to step out there, right? There was no business structure. I was just like, I'm going to go out here and do poems because people love what I do. Yeah. It doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah. And there was no example for you.
Exactly. There was no example. And then so it was so it led up to me doing that interview with the Creative Loafing folks. And then shouts out to Kevin Jackson and Nascar, saw it. And then it was a week later, 2 weeks later, we were shooting. We were doing it. And I was just, bro, it was such a flip. It was such a flip to do that and to be out there and going. And then the money came, but it wasn't even about the money at some point. It was about the creative process and building the brand up, building what I'm doing, building, and creating the avenues and the lanes and the platforms. And so it's this continuous idea of building up who you are, and really making a name for yourself. So when we talk about the business of, Jay-Z always said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. Jay-Z himself is a business. And I think a lot of poets looked at themselves as, and you and I discussed it, like, you are a business, and businesses will want to B2B. They will want to do business with a business. And so the one thing that I had to learn inside of what I was doing, and I think this just comes from my parents, instilling, you got to be a decent human being in life. But I think that also, rolled itself into the business aspect. You can be the greatest poet or MC, singer, painter, or whatever. But if you're a complete, no one's going to want to work with you. Like they're like, I don't care how much greatness comes with that. The headache of it all can be tremendous. And so what I learned was to be as professional as I could at every given turn, not to be rude, to think of everybody as equal. I don't care if they were pushing the broom or drove up in a Porsche. They're all the same people to you. You will show everyone the same respect, because they're there to do a job just like you are there to do a job. And I think if you're just a really great person and you do the job you're supposed to do with high quality, you get called back. Even if it's just they want you in the room because you're just good energy, right? And that's what happened a lot. I was getting called back to do certain things. So like, hey, we heard the project you did, it's amazing. Oh, hey, we heard that you're this, we heard that. It was always that they heard, not even kind of like they saw, but they heard. And I was like, that is probably just as important as the product that I put out, is that they hear that I'm just a decent human being. And I think if that is the approach for a lot of things, then, you definitely get called back. You definitely get to show up at places and be in spaces. And, we always hear that thing where they say, well, I want my name to be in rooms that I'm not. I just want my name in the room. That is so true on so many levels, So if we go back to the idea of what it is to sort of build your brand, that's a part of it, right? That's a part of making sure that your name exists in spaces that you are not, that your good name exists in spaces that you're not, and you're not a part of a terrible conversation. Like, hey, here's who you don't hire. You never want your name in that, for sure.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. That alone will increase the number of times that you're called.
Right.
Like you said, let your name go before you through people knowing what you do, how serious you take what you do.
Right.
And that also means that when I speak of you and refer you, that you will make me look good.
Okay. All right. Okay. Exactly.
Like, yeah, man, listen, I know this gentleman named Blues. Listen, when I tell you he's the real deal, he's the real deal. I don't need to say too much about him,
that is super huge off the referral too. And in reverse, I've become OG, I got that status. So inside of that OG-ness, I've learned to be a little, I don't know, a-hole-ish if it is, but it's not. It's not like I'm out to get someone. I will tell a young poet like, listen, don't make me look stupid.
Right.
And it's like it's something your mama would say. We're gonna go in this store and don't be acting crazy. Like
Or your mom will say, you represent me.
exactly.
So when you leave this house,
Right.
leave right.
Right, exactly. And I think when they hear you say that, it's like I'm trusting you with something that is very serious. And then they now are informed to this is serious. I don't want to mess this up because I want I want to do a good job, but also I don't want Christoph mad at me. I don't want Blues mad at me. Let me do this right. So I think a part of that needs to happen in conversations as well. For all the OGs out there, make sure you have that conversation. Like, listen, I'm. It may sound egotistical, but listen, I'm sending you on my good name. Please don't mess this up. You know what I'm saying? And then they understand it. Like, all right, let me go in here and do what I'm supposed to do my job because he trusted me with this.
Yeah.
They put this on me to come in here and carry on and be the responsible, creative person that I am, and let me move forward. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the poetry industry and it being in its infancy, like the poetry community is ancient. It's been here since the beginning of time. It's in Psalms, it's in the Bible, and poetry's been here. But the poetry industry is brand new.
Yeah.
Right. And I say this often. There is no industry when there's only 4 successful professionals, right?
Right.
So it's not just that we want other poets to succeed. We need them to succeed because that raises the value of the entire industry when there are more. Think about rap when it first started in the whatever decade that was, early 80s, or it was a fad and it was a trend and it wasn't going anywhere. So they said, right? Now it's a $1 trillion industry and it's everywhere.
Right.
And so it's so important for each poet that desires to be in the industry to take it serious, each opportunity, striving for that to be the opportunity, because it makes all poets look good. When Brandon Leak won the America's Got Talent, event planners and project producers were like, I need a poet. Not I need Brandon Leak. I need a poet.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So if they can't find a comparable poet, they're like, man, there's only one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
and we know that not to be true,
Right.
Skill wise, but is it true professional wise?
And that brings up a very interesting point, Christoph, because a lot of poets would ask touring poets, and I say touring poet because there's the college poet who tours colleges, right? And I did that for I think 2 or 3 years. And there are some poets who have a longer shelf life than that, which I think is amazing. But yeah, so it's this glamour idea. It's like, oh, I could do that. I want to be a tour poet. And they have 2 good poems, maybe, right? And not knowing you need at least an hour of work to really say, I'm gonna go to this school and do the thing. And I think they see the sensationalism of the viral poet and the poet with that one poem, and it gets a million views. And like, oh, that's all I need is the one poem to do the next level. And then it's not that. It's not that at all. And so the professionalism of the touring poet is not just having the poem, but how do you craft an hour set? How do I craft that? And some poets are like, oh man, I'm just gonna rifle through all my slam poems. No one wants to hear you spit 20 poems in a row
Right.
at a speed that no one else can understand. Because
Right.
half the time, and most of the time, those kids have never heard of a slam poet, or if they do, they're not going to understand a word you say. So now you have to learn how to slow the poem down. Now you have to learn how to tell the story in between. It's all those things that come in with it that pull to that idea of what a professional poet can also be. So yeah, when you said that, there's only one, you're like, yeah, because a lot of poets don't get that part of it. Like they see this one thing and think it's instantly that, but they don't know, Brandon Leak had to go through a bunch of stuff to get to where he's at. Shouts out to like Asia Sampson and Black Chakra, who have to go through a bunch of things to get to the point where they are. And it's, you get to see the polished product. That's because they went through the dirt, man. So yeah, that professionalism part, you got to learn that, even hone that. And at the same time, it needs to be taught. So those professional poets out there who are hearing this, it's also kind of your responsibility to help grow that. Now, if you make a business out of it, then I'm all with it. But we need to do something. Like it can't end with a certain set of poets, because when it ends with a certain set of poets, then it just ends.
Right.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. And that's so it's so key. It's so key for us to be, I want to say, on the same page, but on the same page of being professional, because like you stated, it would be great for us to be able to run down a list of names that we could call, and I know you do, but for the layperson that is not poetically inclined or in the community, there's a lot of people that are not rappers or singers or dancers, but they can name rappers, singers, and dancers. Right. You know what I'm saying? So is an industry is more than the professionals in the industry knowing who are the professionals.
Right.
It's those who are outside of the industry knowing who the professionals are in that industry. So we have to get to that place where we're disrupting other industries with our skill set,
Right.
our art.
Right.
And that's what you're doing. You're disrupting NASCAR, NBA, NFL, like Lowe's. That's disruption.
Right. And I think we're even disrupting the Grammys now with that big push that happened. That's one of the biggest disruptions we've had in almost ever, to change a whole category, that it really reflects the artwork that people are out here doing. Because every year you could hear the universal groan and eye roll of poets when they hear the spoken word Grammy goes to name a president or name an actor who wrote it. You're like, I'm so glad Obama got a Grammy, but geez, come on, man.
Wow.
So it's finally sort of getting our just due in that arena too. And again, that will level up the professionalism of the poet. So now the poet is also, which we've always kind of been, the recording artist as well. But how does, it's another chance for the industry to cash in if they're looking to be exploitive of the poet and the genre. All right, we'll play that game with y'all.
Right.
Know that we're gonna make money too, but also now we get to be in these circles and have these conversations and get into these rooms on a professional level of what our art and what our genre can do for other industries in a collaborative effort. Now that we can stamp Grammy Award winner to some of our names, even Grammy nominee is big, right? It's big. So it's resume builder. And it comes with this idea of you gotta be good at what you do and a professional at what you do at a level that that others are doing it. So
Yeah.
don't just see the thing, but here's how to aspire to that, and here are some of the standards that are set and standards that can be raised.
Right. Right. I'm a true believer that poetry is just as every bit of valuable than as comedy and public speaking.
Better say it.
Those who get paid thousands of dollars
You
for an
better
hour.
say it. Come on.
However, we have to know that.
That part.
We have to know that, but then when we find out that we are just as or even more valuable, we got to put in the work that a comedian does.
Right.
A comedian, they evoke emotion.
Right.
Poets evoke emotion.
Come on.
But a comedian has an hour. Do you have an hour?
Right.
Not, like you said, not just poem. Can you tell a story? Can you narrate? Can you interweave your spoken word seamlessly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And can you create an experience with poetry, man?
Period.
Period. Like, how well do you know your own work? Now becomes a really good question for yourself. Like, for me, that's what it became a real quick. My first college gig was terrible. I was awful. And I knew it. I knew I was awful. I was done in 30 minutes. I had to figure out how to do the other 30. That's how bad at this I was. And because I was cocky too. I was cocky. And I was like, I made it. These people just gonna take whatever I give them. No, Blues. It does not work that way. It was after watching a John Good. John Good. If y'all don't know John Good, he's an amazing poet. He's an amazing storyteller and writer. Now you talk about the business of poetry, Christoph. That's the next person who you need to talk to is John.
What's his name?
John Good. JONGOODE. He's done stuff with Adult Swim, Southwest Airlines. He's on it. But in particular, he's doing the Story Slam series with The Moth, which is basically poetry slam, but in story form. That man is incredible at what he does in terms of hosting and everything. But I watched him and he told me once, like, man, I did an hour set, only used 4 poems.
Right.
4. And I was like, what?
That makes sense, though.
When he told me that, I was like, you know what?
That makes sense.
They paid me to be here to do poetry, but I can do all kind of stuff in between. And I was like, if I knew how to do magic, I would do a magic trick in between my poems. And you learn to tell a joke. You learn to sing a song. It's this time that they get to know you as the person. And that's when I say, how well do you know your own work? And can you craft a story from A to Z?
But that's why Dave Chappelle is so good.
Right.
If you really count how many jokes he tells, it's probably like 10.
Right.
With story all throughout.
Right.
And like, and then you laugh, and then you like,
Yeah.
that's genius.
Yeah. And that's that, but that it goes back to that professionalism. How well are you crafting what you do? And some of us are really there, man, in terms of how we're building ourselves. I mean, if we're even just to turn this interview around on Christoph, you've managed to build the Poet Life brand in such a manner that you are curating and crafting stories about poetry and poets in a manner that the brand suits the listener. You know, you love what you do, but you're not doing it for you. And the platform is created to impact your audience and to impact the poets. And so we feel that sincerity in it, right? And that is a level of business. Walmart is there to impact its customers. Target is there to impact its customers. Granted, their bottom line is there. I mean, yeah, we want to make a little money, but we want to create an experience that you will always come back to here. And that's what you're doing, is you're creating an experience where they will always want to come back to there. So just looking at this whole business of poetry, and we talked earlier about approaches, this is another approach, man. This is so dope.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I even outside of this conversation, I want to link up with you, because I'm learning so much. You're taking my mind to another hemisphere, universe, and I'm taking notes as I speak, because what you're doing, man, like I didn't know. And when I saw it on Facebook, I was like, okay, let me DM him right now, because I have to, at the very least, hear the story of how that happened.
Right.
And then when I'm getting the story, you name drop 5 different other things. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. All right. So let's talk about it, man. So in poetry, what are you doing now? I know you're like the director of creative events and things of that nature where you are now.
Yeah.
But how are you interweaving poetry in what you do?
Through just me doing what I do, there's this exhibit we have up called Immersive Van Gogh, which is it's pretty global at this point. I think there's one in Chicago, San Francisco. Britney Spears went to the one in LA, yada yada yada, right? But ours is unique in a sense of we have one of the largest square footage spaces for the event, but also, and excuse my ego, they got me.
There you go.
What I've been able to do is, while there is the experience, I'm like, how do we really flip this space, flip what this is? So the first event that I did was called Slam Van Gogh. And what happens is I got 10 poets to sit in the experience, which is about 30 minutes long. It's a loop of Van Gogh's work and video, and it morphs and moves, and there's music. So they sit in this experience. But before they go in, I give them a writing topic. And while they're in there, they have 30 minutes to write a poem. And when they come out, the audience sits and then they deliver the poem, and it's a slam. One poem, everybody gets one round with one poem, and then it's a slam right there. So it works in twofold. For most of the patrons there, they had never seen Immersive Van Gogh, and they've never been to a poetry slam. So they're getting 2 art experiences in one sitting. So that was super fun to do. And so what I was like, what else could I do next? I could do Rap Van Gogh, which works in the same sort of ideal. But the flip is this: I got 2 producers to produce the music for the immersive, for the rap part of it. So it's this chance to. Oh, and everybody gets paid to participate. So it's not that you just get to slam. You I already paid you to be there. There's a chance to win money on top of being paid. So my biggest thing inside of all of that in terms of poetry is, how do I continuously pay poets to do what they do? That's the one thing I've been advocating and pushing. Like every event that I've done that involves poetry, I think 90% of the time I just paid the poet to be there. To do the thing, except for our regular slams. Those were started, way back, oh gosh, over 10 years ago. So those models haven't changed. But, inside that aspect, and it's not just poetry, it's artists, period, in the city.
Yeah.
Any event that I've been able to create, there's a budget that comes with it that allows the artist to be paid, whether they're a painter, dancer, singer, whatever it is. I'm like, I'm going to pay you for your time. Mm-hmm. Will it ever be enough? No. I don't have millions of dollars to give you what you deserve, but you're definitely going to walk out of here with a check for sure. Like, you're getting paid to do what you do. And so that's sort of that poetry world that I've been able to intersect with my actual job. And then just on a personal level, I have a book coming out, hip hop haiku. So yeah, every year for the past 3 or 4 years in April, where it's National Poetry Writing Month, um, when I first started, I was writing poems. Well, not that a haiku isn't a poem, but I was writing like long form poems, and I was like, in about day 15, I was burnt out. I was like, oh, I don't know what to write about, isn't it? But then I was like, all right, how do I get creative here? I was like, well, I love haikus. They're short and they're sweet, and it's fun to try to figure out that puzzle. And I was like, I love hip hop. And I was like, oh my God, hip hop haiku was born. And so for 30 days, I would take some part of the culture, be it the MC, be it the B-boy, be it graffiti, DJ, food, cars, weed, whatever it was that was a part of hip hop culture. I made a haiku out of it. And so this past year, I was like, it's time to do a book. And shouts out to One Crown Management who signed me. I'm signed to like a record label of sorts for a book. And so we're going to put out the book before, I think in December. So it should be out almost another month. But it's amazing. I got to do this book. And the cool thing was the haikus would always come with a picture of of whatever it was I was talking about. So like one of my first ones was Biggie. So I wrote the haiku and there was a picture of Biggie, and then I put it on Instagram, and that's where it lived. So when I decided to do the book, I was like, it definitely has to be an art book. So it functions as an art book and a poetry book. It's art that lives there, and then the haiku on the other side. But naturally, I was pulling the pictures just off the internet, screenshotting, cropping, yada yada, boom.
Yep.
So I was like, well, there's no way that I could, mass produce a book with someone else's pictures. So what I was able to do was employ artists from the city to recreate. I was like, hey, listen, here are the subjects. You can create these however they look to you, however hip hop represents to you, whatever that reflection is. Because Christoph, I can't draw a thing. Like I can barely draw a conclusion. Like I can't draw a thing.
Same here.
Like I can't tell you how to art, right? I can't tell you. So all I can say is whatever you see, that's your perspective. And low key, well, high key, because I told them, like, I'm fans of your work. This is why I'm asking you, because I've just been itching to work with you, and this is the only way that I knew how to do it. So I got to fanboy out over some artists that I really love who are right here in my city. I was able to, get them paid, but get them a deal where it's not just I pay you the one time. They will also make money from the book as well. So the deal is structured that whatever royalties we get in, we start divvying that up. And because I've done so many, they can be volumes now. So it's just volume 1, and then 2 and 3 will come years and years and years. So it's building the longevity of just the hip hop haiku book, but hopefully structuring a model where there's revenue coming in my brain for the next 25 years of being able to do this. As long as hip hop has been around, there will always be something for me to write about. But I also have it set to where my publishing company benefits my daughters, but I also want to be able to set other poets up to be a part of what this is and continue it on. Because as long as my brain works, I'll continue writing. But, will I have the energy and passion to do it anymore? Probably, I'd be ready to retire at some point.
Right.
But I would love to be able to pass this model, this structure on to the next person and say, here's what I did. Here's how it works. Write the things. Here's how you pay people. Here's how you get your artists. Here's how you continue to create that revenue from here on out. So, yeah, man, it's a lofty dream. It's a big dream, but it's started. It's in motion, and if it works the way I want to, man, I'll be 70, seeing a poet who's 30 making money off an idea I had when I was in my 40s. So hopefully that's the way it works, and that's my give back.
You just made me remember a conversation that I had with my wife last night. You heard of the book Think and Grow Rich, right? Do you know I just recently just kind of realized what that title meant? I'm just thinking it's a nice title. It's catchy, Think and Grow Rich. But just last night, and I read the book like twice, so somewhere over here. But I was watching a video. I can't remember who it was, Myron Golden, and he was saying, and this guy is like a millionaire. He was saying that, the mind is so valuable. The mind is so significant. He was saying that the book doesn't say work and grow rich. It doesn't say get a degree and get 3, 4, 5 degrees and grow rich. It says think and grow rich. I was like, oh, your ideas are what will make you rich if you execute them correctly.
That's it, man. That's it.
I was like, because if you really think about it, the artists just have ideas after ideas after ideas, but then we'll pray for God to like save us from our, the valley that we're in.
Right.
And he's like, all of those ideas running in your head, that's your lifeboat.
Right.
Those are your life. I'm sending you ideas.
I've been sending that to you.
And you're sitting on them. Man, that's major. And so what you're doing, you're deploying and employing your ideas.
Yeah. And it's such a gratifying feeling. I think for so long I've been chasing what the poetry fame could be. Like I want to be a famous poet. And then it struck me was I don't have to be famous to be rich.
Do you want to be popular or do you want to be paid?
Right. And I was like, I like being paid because being paid means I can have access and a certain amount of power to do other things and create, popularity. I mean, there are a lot of popular people out there, but they're broke. Broken, and I was like, I don't want either of those things. And we talk about broken people and people are like, man, you don't put enough tragedy in your work. I'm like, yeah, that's not who I am. I got enough tragedy. I don't have to put it on paper. Like I don't have to share that with you. Unless it's me and you having a conversation and I need to tell you about an experience that I survived that helps you specifically.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna necessarily pimp my pain, to gain popularity. I've lost plenty of slams to poets who put their heart out there, and kudos to them. That's a certain kind of bravery. And it's not that I'm not that brave. I just don't think it's any of your business. And that's just the old school me. Like I write for in terms of that. Like I like to entertain. I like to leave a message. I like to inform. And if there are other things that I think are more important than that, then something that I've been through, then yeah. If it's a specific event that really reflects my life, then of course you're going to get that poem. But not just for winning $100. That's not.
You're intentional.
Right. Very intentional. So yeah, when I say the popularity thing are for people who sometimes they end up broke or broken. Like it's not worth it to me. It's never been worth it to me. And I say that from a place where I know that I'm blessed to get where I am and still have suffered, but not, I understand there are people out there who are really hurting and I want to help those people. Like I want to be able to help you not suffer the way you have suffered and come up, you know what I'm saying? Where you don't have to get paid for your pain because that's taxing, like if the only way I'm going to make $1 million is to continue to tell you where my scars are and rip those scars off on stage, is that $1 million worth it? Like, what is that money worth? And there's got to be another way. But that's a that's a whole philosophical question anyway. But yeah, man, it's good to be able to have the access and the resources to help other people. And if I do, something for 6 other poets and 5 of them become insanely rich and insanely famous from what I've been able to give them, then I would have done my job and served my purpose on this earth as what I do. And I've grown to be comfortable with that. Like, my kids are healthy. My mom and dad are still with me. I'm not suffering from a disease. I'm good. That's as small as the boxes I try to make it and put those things in there and remember that every single day that I'm good, because I know people who are not. And so I won't complain about what I do not have and be very thankful for what I do and maintain that happiness. If it grows, great. Shrinks, then maybe I worry a little. But for right now, man, how can I help people? That's where I'm at. Like, I'm so good right now. Who can I be of service to? So, yeah.
Man, that is, I'm not even going to continue this because that is the best way to end it. Because truth be told, we could continue to talk for another 5 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
But what you were able to share in this conversation, the value is priceless, and I know those who are reading this on the blog, listening to it on the podcast, or watching it on YouTube, they're going to get so much from it. And I know they're just sitting there like, I can do so much more now. I can do so much more with my poetry that I didn't even know that I could.
Right.
For the longest, for me, I've been writing since first grade and until 30, until I was Googling, how can you start a career in poetry? How can you get paid with poetry? Couldn't find anything, no example. I just couldn't find it. I'm 39 now, right? And it's been a journey of, okay, if you can't find it, you have to create it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like you, man. I feel as though that I will grow by helping others grow.
Exactly.
And if we understood that as a collective, the industry would grow so massive and so quickly, because like I said, and with the example of Brandon Leake, as he succeeds, not everybody looking for a poet is going to, not everybody looking for a poet is looking for Amanda Gorman.
Right.
They're looking for a great poet.
Exactly.
So be a great poet. Be a great professional poet.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. I so appreciate, you coming on. I so appreciate meeting you, and learning a lot more than what I see on Facebook, And so I do appreciate, on behalf of the Poet Life podcast, you being a guest, and I'm sure folks will start to DM you and say thank you as well, because you've opened my eyes, and I'm sure you've opened others' eyes as well. If you could, well, first of all, tell us about, you told us about your book. Is there anything, you want to share with the folks about what you have going on, and where they can find you?
For sure. You can follow me on Instagram, as you can see, BLUZ, and also the Hip Hop Haiku on Instagram as well. on Twitter, Mr. Blues. Yeah, just be on the lookout for that book about to drop. You'll see it through One Crown Entertainment. I believe that's the Instagram for them. But yeah, just follow me on IG, and if you see something you like, of course, like it, share it, whatever. But if you have like specific questions, I like to remind people that I'm not a gatekeeper. If you have a question about something, ask me. I'm not going to be like, it's going to cost you $20.
Right.
You know, unless a school or somebody brings me, that's the only way a thing costs something. But if you're a poet who's just trying to make your life a little bit better at what you do not be afraid to DM me. I don't let any of that titles or whatever, like skip all that. I'm just Blues. At the end of the day, I'm just a dude who puts on shoes and pants and a shirt and tries to make his life and the life of his family a little bit better. So I am somebody, but I'm nobody if you just need to talk to me. Like,
I love it.
I'm approachable. So hit me up for sure.
I love it. How many daughters do you have?
I have two. My son is, how's my son now? He's 29. My oldest daughter, who's in college, is 20. My youngest is 13, and I have a 2-year-old grandson.
Wow, that's
That
you
boy,
you have some work on your hands.
man. Listen, I can't even begin to tell you.
Yeah. I have 3 daughters, all 6 and under.
Oh, you talk about my work.
Hey, listen, you wonder why we record these episodes at 9:00 at night.
Right, I understand exactly, bro. I already know.
Yeah.
I already know.
Literally, man. So thank you for obliging. And listen, even when we hop off this, I want to, ask you something in regards to what we talked about. And just thank you so much. Listen, everybody, I'm sure you got so much value from this episode. So again, like Blue said, go check him out. Go check out hip hop haiku. Is it the hip hop haiku on Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay, got you. And so when that book comes out, go get it. I write haiku as well. I write haiku on a typewriter.
I see the typewriter in the back. I'm like, let me find out.
Man. Yeah. I found a lane where I get booked to write haiku at events, have conversation with the attendees, and translate our conversation in haiku.
Oh, that's genius.
And so we type them up on these cards, and now they're party favors for the attendees that they get to take home.
Bro, that's so genius. That is genius.
Weddings, the whole 9, man. And it's been a journey. As a matter of fact, I got connected with the haiku guys. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but look them up. Look them up on IG.
Are they out of California?
They're international. They're based out in New York, but they hire haikuists in cities, big cities around the country and beyond, and they hire poets like me to go to these events that they book, and they pay well. So that means they are getting paid well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna check those out. Guys out for sure.
Definitely, man. So I love the haiku book idea, and I love the title, the theme, the whole 9, because like you said, that can continue on, because hip hop is just here.
It's here.
It's just here, and it's not going anywhere. So as a matter of fact, it's going into the metaverse. From the universe to the metaverse.
Yeah, man.
But everybody, thank you all for checking this episode out. I'm not sure what I'm going to title this episode, but because we've gone from left to right and up and down, and just be prepared for the next episode. And again, DM Blues on IG. Thank you for checking us out. If you need more information about The Poet Life, go to thepoetlife.com. If you all need some gear, go to poetlifegear.com and get you some. Question is, who knows you're a poet? If a stranger saw you, would they know you were a poet? They would if you were a basketball player and you had basketball shorts on. They knew you were a basketball player. But how do people know you're a poet? If you had some Poet Life gear on, they would stop you. They would stare at your gear, like, "Oh, you're a poet." Yeah. So go to poetlifegear.com. What else we got? Poetlifeuniversity.com as well. We have 8-week long courses live on Zoom. And one of the courses, how to get paid in the classroom, how to get paid to teach in the classroom, right? That's one of our courses. We have roughly around 7 courses. And after this, I'm going to talk to Blues about having him teach the business behind poetry. So listen, check us out. Thank you for watching. It's the Poet Life Podcast. We're out.
Find a way, find a way. Ain't get no time now. You in the way, I'm doing fine now. Out of my business,